This NFL Week 6 injury updates and news and player prop target edition of the Propcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up with promo code MACHINE to get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and the NFL with Rhythm. Get your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM.
And taking a shot to ground downfield. He makes the catch, and he gets in for the touchdown. The catch is made by Calvin Ridley. Wilson, good as he throws deep downfield. It's going to be
Welcome, everyone, to the Propcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Here to get into NFL Week 6. Talk about all the injuries that did transpire over the weekend here. You guys know how we do it here. We'll go through each game that has injury implications. We'll break it down for you, maybe target guys that we should be looking at in the player prop market for NFL Week 6 as well. But joining me, he is the man of the show, the superstar himself, Sebastian Fearon. Sebastian, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Just telling you offline, coming straight from a little wine tasting here. So if I'm a little more animated, just know it's me. It's not you. But maybe you're partaking in some festivities as well on this Tuesday night, night without football. Although I think we got Maction starting up this week, but whether we count that as real football or not, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, look, if there's football on, people are definitely watching it, no matter if it's Maction or some of those other conferences. But you're also, you mentioned you have the wine tasting, but you also have your team coming off a victory in Seattle. My team coming off a victory. You got the Giants shirt on there, so we're pumped up. We're excited. Our teams are doing pretty well, to say the least here. I think a huge victory there for the New York Giants up in Seattle. But that was a fun game to watch. Just a really collective effort by that Giants team. And how are you feeling after that game?
Look, there's only so many times you can wear the shirt proud. I will always wear my Giants stuff. It's just sometimes my head's hung low, but this week it's held high. It was a solid game. We really, I think the score, for anyone who watched the game, the score didn't even reflect. We basically gave away 7 points. We put ourselves in a 7-point hole after one of the best drives all season. Yeah. And it came down to Isaiah Simmons blocking a kick and the Giants special teams, which has been atrocious for years under McGahee there. All right. It's nice to move forward, and I'm excited, man. It's happy. It's good to be off victory. We don't get too many of those in New York. So
yeah, man. I mean, very impressive victory, especially, with all the travel and obviously Malik Neighbors missing the game there as well. But great win for the New York Giants from NFL Week 5. We'll see if they're able to carry the momentum into NFL Week 6 against the Cincinnati Bengals, whose defense, to say the least, is been one of the worst in the entire football league through the first 5 weeks here.
Not good.
Sebastian. Yeah, not good, man. I mean, look, I had the Bengals last week.
I'd consider that a bad beat. We were talking about that yesterday on the show. I think you can call that a bad beat, man. They were really, from the kicking woes to Burrow doing so well, Zach Taylor not calling a pass in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the question mark really was, and I know we started the segment / this new show on the Propcast about a week later. But what do you anticipate? But I think if we had started, we would have talked about the Joe Burrow injury, right? I mean, if the wrist was lingering or not, or was it just that he was missing T. Higgins? But since T. Higgins has returned for this Bengals team, I mean, this offense has looked really good. Jamar Chase is starting to look like the guy that we saw in the previous years. I know he still wants to get that contract done, but not during the season. I think that his price tag keeps on rising after all the stellar performances that he's had over the past couple of weeks here for the Cincinnati Bengals. So, maybe on the other side of the football has been very good for them, like I mentioned. But hopefully there are improvements coming for that side. But again, a very, very tough hill to climb right now, as they are 1-4 on the season. Are the Cincinnati Bengals. Sebastian, before we get into it here, man, let me remind everyone about the devastation that the people of Western North Carolina suffered with Hurricane Helene. SGPN, we have a great time around here. We joke around a lot, but we have big hearts all around the network, and we're teaming up with a local charity called mountainprojects.org to help give back to the people of Western North Carolina. The biggest donation will get you a guest spot on the college football pick show and a ton of great merchandise from the SGP merchandise store. So if you want to help, go to mountainprojects.org, hit the flood support button to help out today. Every little donation will go a long way. So if you guys can do that, just head over again to mountainprojects.org and just hit that hit the flood support button there to help out the people of Western North Carolina. And as always, we always mention this at the end of the episodes, but I want to appreciate all the listeners that we do have. And, we wouldn't be here without the support of your guys here, especially with the Propcast. And if you can head over to Spotify, you could give us a 5-star review. That would be huge for us. That would go a long way. Only you can prevent corporate gambling from taking over. So help us, fight off the corporate gambling. Just go over to Spotify, give us a 5-star rating, and that would be greatly, greatly appreciated if you guys could do that. All right, Sebastian, let's get into it here, man. We've got another week here, teams that are on bye weeks this week, but we'll start it off here. Thursday night football, going to be a big one here in the NFC West. Both teams coming off of losses here. We talked about the Seahawks getting upset by the New York Football Giants, and then we have the San Francisco 49ers, who were looking like they were pretty much at cruise control until the second half came around, and they weren't able to score a single point there. But right now, the spread is sitting at 3.5 in this game with a total of 47.5. And a lot of times when we talk about Thursday night football, Sebastian, it turns into it's a short week. I mean, some of the injuries that did transpire for some of these teams, if it's something significant, we usually don't see them out there. But what do we got for 49ers and the Seahawks?
Yeah, no, there's actually a decent amount of injuries here. A big reason why the 49ers, did actually take that L was Jake Moody. Kicker Jake Moody suffered a high ankle sprain. He's going to be out probably around 4 to 6 weeks. So he's going to be out a significant amount of time. They did sign somebody off, a practice squad there. The name is evading me right now. But so they do have a kicker, which will be better to have any kicker than none, because it seems like anybody who's kicking in the NFL right now can just hit a 50-yard bomb no matter what. So, but obviously, no Jake Moody for a while. Defenses are really beat up on both sides of the ball. Tailoa Hufanga coming off that ACL tear. He tore a ligament in his wrist. He's going to be out at least 4 weeks. So for at least a month, they're not going to have one of their guys, one of their leaders in the back end. We talked about Fred Warner coming off an injury last week. He's not as important as Fred Warner because nobody really on to any defense is. But Hufanga is a big piece back there. So that's going to be a point where they're going to be missing something. And then linebacker Flanagan Flowers, who starts at that third linebacker spot when they go into that 3 linebacker package, he's likely going to be out as well. Offensive side, it's just George Kittle, who, he played last week with the rib injury. He's got a limited practice in on Monday. I fully expect him to play. He plays through a lot. On the Seahawks side of the ball, outside linebacker Uchenna Nwosu, he just came off IR with an MCL sprain. Now he's right back onto IR with a thigh injury. So he's going to be missed at least 4 games. And then Tariq Woolen, one of the best corners in the league, up-and-coming guy. He had to leave the game due to an ankle injury. Kind of need more info on that one. He's a little bit more questionable. But, between Nwosu, Hufanga, Flowers, these are 3 starters at least going to be out on defense. So, as far as props, these are – I think the passing games are going to be able to, I really think the over in this game is kind of something to watch with these defenses both beat up. It's sitting pretty high here at 47.5, but I do think both these offenses are going to be able to have their way here.
Yeah, I think something that we probably should start writing down is that when we do have cluster injuries on the defensive side of the football, whether it's at the secondary or whether it's at the linebacker position, if some of these games are going over, obviously, that's not the only handicap you want to use when we're talking about bets, but when you are relying on the depth there, but when you get to the second string or you do get to down to the third string guys that they haven't had a lot of practice time, when it's always usually the ones obviously getting the practice during the week. Yeah, when you're elevating guys from the practice squad, there's a huge gap between the number 1 guy and those guys that are being elevated from the practice squad to fill in for those guys that are injured. For the Niners, they signed the kicker Matthew Wright. Never heard of him. He entered the NFL after signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers as an undrafted free agent on April 29th of 2019. So not sure if he's kicked since then, but they do have a kicker to fill in for Jake Moody, like Sebastian mentioned, who will be the Niners will be without his service for about 4 to 6 weeks. Anything else for this game, Sebastian?
The one thing I will mention here, Geno Smith. I think Kyler Murray rushed for 80 yards. We all saw him throw up the deuces at the 45 last week and rush for that 50-yard touchdown. Geno Smith is quietly having some games where he's rushing. I mean, 3 out of the 5 games he's went over that 25-yard mark and on the ground. Right now, Geno Smith rushed for 25 plus yards is plus 295 over on DK. Just a prop to watch. They got a linebacker out. They got a safety out. They're going to be worried about all those wide receivers. Both these defenses have been susceptible to the quarterback run. So I think that's a sneaky one where, I want to look into a little bit more, but just Geno Smith rushing yards, pay attention to that one. I think he could have a little bit. I mean, at 72 yards on the ground last week.
Yeah, we talked about this on the episode when I jumped on with Sean and Kramer talking about Thursday Night Football props. And at that time, the number wasn't out. And we saw what you just mentioned about how Geno Smith has been able to utilize his legs and pick up the yardage. And we said the number probably was going to come out at 12.5. Lo and behold, right now, the number right now is at 12.5. But if you want to ladder this up to 20 plus, 25 plus, maybe even 30 plus, I think there's a good opportunity here for Geno Smith, like Sebastian mentioned, to get over his rushing yards for this game. So definitely co-sign that one with you. Let's get over to the next game on the board here. We'll get over to my Houston Texans. They are headed to Foxborough to take on the New England Patriots. Currently, as it stands, the Texans are a 7-point favorite in this game with a total of 38. I know J Mark, shout out to J Mark of the Old Fashioned Football. If you haven't checked out the marks there, you need to go out, check out them out. They'll get you all your fantasy stuff. Let's do a great job there. He's asking about Nico Collins here. I'll give my take here, and I'll give it to Sebastian here first for this game.
Sorry, did you say you were going to give your take? Or
no, you want to? Yeah, no. Go ahead and give your take first, and then I'll give mine.
There you go. So I hamstring injury, right? He already said he's week to week. Hamstring strains are one of the worst strains to get during the season because they have a high re-injury rate. That we talked about this before, but essentially what happens is before the tissue is actually healed, you feel better. So you think you're better. These guys are used to performing at a high level. So if they're not careful, if they're not listening to their trainers, they're used to doing what they're able to with their body, and they go out there and they sprint, boom, re-injury. So it's something you do not want, especially early in the season, you do not want to mess with, right? So I would like when teams err on the side of caution, which unfortunately means missing a couple more weeks. So I'm expecting him out at least 2 weeks, if not 4. We all saw Evan Ingram kind of, what happened with him. He still hasn't played yet, although we'll be talking about him soon. Good chance he returns, but I'm expecting a multi-week absence here for Nico Collins, unfortunately. But I think it's, I think it's better if he takes the 2 to 3 weeks to just fully heal and then come back and be that number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah, and I think for, like you mentioned, initially when they came out, it was I think it was on either after the game or Monday morning. They said it was going to be day to day, but like you mentioned, because of hamstring injuries, it does take a little bit for those to heal. I think this is the week where they can afford to not have him out there. I know it is the Patriots, but we've seen crazier things happen thus far in the NFL, to say the least. But that's a guy that you really want out there, number 1, healthy. Whether it takes 2, 3, 4 weeks, but that's a guy that you want to have healthy for the playoffs. When and if the Texans do get there, obviously they're out to a 4-1 start here in the AFC South Division. But we'll talk about player prop targets here in a second here. But I do expect him at minimum to miss the Patriots game, and then next week we're going to Lambeau to take on the Packers. Maybe he comes back for that Colts game in 3 weeks, but then we're on a short week after that against the Jets. So I think I would expect him maybe for that Jets game. If not, we're on a bye week after this. So that's going to give him 5 full weeks after coming back off the bye, and that won't be till November 10th. So we'll keep an eye on for Nico Collins here. But what else we got for this game?
Yeah, no, they did update it. D'Amico Ryan said, I believe yesterday, week to week. So they updated that day to day, right? So that does tell me, I don't think any hamstring strain is truly day to day. But no. I think your estimation, I would say probably maybe the Jets game, but depending on how much damage is there, it might be best. But I wouldn't expect basically anything further than after the bye, right? So that's kind of probably the ceiling to that. And then the other thing here is Jabril Peppers got arrested on Saturday. Possession, he's got kind of a lot of stuff. So I would say if he doesn't end up actually in jail, suspension is probably best case there. So expect Jabril Peppers to probably be out for the Patriots for a little while.
Yeah, not injury news here, but did get the news this morning that Drake May is going to be the starting quarterback for the Patriots.
It's huge.
For this game against the Houston Texans. Obviously, with Nico Collins not out there, I think the guy that you probably want to target this week is going to be Tank Dell for the Texans. I think this is a good ladder opportunity. I know the number's not out quite yet for the project because we do record early in the week, but I think this is an opportunity, like we said to our listeners, to write down some of these names that we do like when it comes to the player prop market, because number one, going back to last season before Stephon Diggs got there, we know it was Nico Collins and Tank Dell before he had the injury. I mean, he came out looking really good in his rookie season. And I think after Nico left the game last week, there was a big emphasis on Tank Dell to get him the football. If you were able to find Tank Dell as well for rushing yards, I think that might be a play as well, because they also like to utilize him with those jet sweeps, and because he does possess that speed. But I think this could be another big week here for Tank Dell. So I would curious to see what this number comes out at, but I would not hesitate to ladder this up to possibly 50, 60, 70 yards for Tank Dell in this game. So I think that's the one guy I would target here for a player prop market outside of Nico, or with the absence of Nico Collins here, Sebastian.
Yeah, no, I'm absolutely going to co-sign that, because I think when it comes to facing the Patriots, it's who's Christian Gonzalez not guarding. I think Christian Gonzalez is going to guard Stephon Diggs, right? So with Dell in the slot, I like Dell a lot more than Diggs. You know, Diggs is a good wide receiver, but there's only one Christian Gonzalez. So I do like that.
All right, let's get over to the next game on the board here. We'll get over to let me get back to my odd screen here. Let's go to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think I jumped ahead because it's an international game here. But Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears across the pond. Bears right now currently sitting as a 2.5-point favorite, total of 44.5. We have anything for this game, Sebastian?
Just a couple things real quick. Chicago safety Jaquan Brisker not traveling with the team, ruled out with a concussion. We've seen, if your guy has a concussion, it is now very likely they're going to miss at least 1 week. It's a change in the NFL. You know, happened early last season, then they got away from it. It's happening early this season. We'll see if they stick to it. But right now, almost everyone who has a concussion is missing at least 1 week. Jaguars running back Travis Etienne dealing with a shoulder injury. He was held out late, but he's expected to be okay. I'm going to take this opportunity to talk about Tank Bigsby. I loved Tank Bigsby last week. He cashed a 2-touchdown play for me last week. He's physical running back, and I think that, you know, they like Etienne out of the backfield, but when it comes to this Bears defense, they have a much better pass defense and a rush defense. So I think there's opportunity to run against the Chicago team. So if you're going to be targeting a Jaguars back, whether it's due to injury or I just think pure talent at this point of who's a more physical runner, I do like Bigsby. And then Evan Ingram has a good chance to return this week. It's been almost 5 weeks now since he injured himself in the pregame warmups. So opportunity, you know, I'm not sure I'm going to be running to the window to play our Evan Ingram. But, you know, how does this play into Christian Kirk, Brian Thomas targets? You know, again, I think this Bears defense, pass defense is pretty good. So I don't know how much I'm running to the window to bet overs on receivers there. But I think, you know, Bigsby is obviously a guy I'll probably be targeting.
Yeah, I think that's the broader conversation that we've also had on the Propcast, that it seems like Tank Bigsby may, I don't want to say he's going to take over RB1 role, but it seems like the snap counts are really starting to even out or maybe even get ahead for Tank Bigsby. And I think that he's had a really good season thus far in the games that obviously he has been productive, because we take a look last week as far as snap counts with 22 for Travis Etienne, 23 for Tank Bigsby. He also had Dearness Johnson, who got 13 snaps there as well. So Tank Bigsby did have 40% of the snaps there for the running back group. And then Travis Etienne, 38%. And then Dearness Johnson had 22%. So something to definitely keep an eye on for the Jacksonville Jaguars. You got anything else for this game?
Nope, that's it.
All right, let's keep it rolling here. Let's get over to the next game on the board here. We'll go over to the Philadelphia Eagles. They are hosting the Cleveland Browns. Currently, as it stands, the Eagles are a 8.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 43.5. possibly some reinforcements coming back here for the Eagles, Sebastian. But what do we got for Browns and Eagles?
Yeah, that's a big thing I want to talk about. AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Lane Johnson, all expected back. This is an Eagles team coming off an injury, coming off the bye. You know, they didn't look too good coming off of it, right? They got whooped pretty good by Tampa. I think they're gonna be upset, and this Browns team is one of the worst teams I've ever seen. Talked about it on a show yesterday, but absolutely an auto fade. I know the number is sitting at 9, but my biggest takeaway from this game is Browns still have offensive line injuries. Nick Chubb, whether he returns, I don't think he's going to be the Nick Chubb we're used to anyway. And with Deshaun Watson playing quarterback, I cannot bet on the Browns. So really, for me, the big takeaway is I think the Eagles come out, and I think much like Washington, they put it on the Browns.
When do you expect Nick Chubb to possibly return for this Cleveland Browns team? Because you mentioned Deshaun Watson has just been an absolute catastrophe right now for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that contract day by day, week by week is just looking worse and worse for this Cleveland Browns team. I think there's going to be a point, maybe it's after this week, that if they aren't able to produce points, that we may see Jameis Winston come in as a starting quarterback here. But I think it would really give them a boost when and if Nick Chubb does come back. But like you mentioned, coming off the injury that he is coming off of, he's probably not going to be that same guy. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of rust there for him. But when do you possibly expect him to come back?
Yeah, so with the way the IR situation works, the practice window is open. So he's really got 2 weeks to come back unless he's done for the whole season. So, it's either going to be this week or next week. Now, I've talked about when are we going to see him be productive? Probably not for a few weeks. I'm not super optimistic for this season. I think it's amazing that he even made it back to the field. But this is a pretty severe injury, and the Browns' offensive line is terrible. He's going to face a lot of stacked boxes. So it's whether it's actually him coming back from a significant injury or there's just no holes getting created right now. No one's going to be afraid of Deshaun Watson throwing the ball downfield. So I do think he returns in his next 2 weeks because he basically has to, unless he's shut down for the season. But I don't, if we do see Nick Chubb really start to show up and be productive, I don't think it's going to be until, week 12 and on.
All right. Before we get over to the next game on the board here, let me remind everybody about our friends over at Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Pick'em has one of the best and biggest menus for all sports: NFL, college football, MLB, MMA, WNBA, NASCAR, and more. Their lobby is jam-packed with profit boost and can now use specials and boosts on all flex entries. I'm definitely going to have Tank Dell in my entry this week. Definitely going to go with the higher on his receiving yards for this upcoming week against the New England Patriots. So sign up with promo code MACHINE to claim your special pick and first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Make sure you use that promo code MACHINE. All right, Sebastian, let's keep it rolling here, my man. Let's get over to the next game on the board. This one looks like it's going to be a pretty good matchup here. The Arizona Cardinals, they are headed to Lambeau Field to take on the Green Bay Packers. Looking at the lines for this game, I'm currently seeing the Packers are a 5-point home favorite with a total of 49.5 in this game. What are we looking at for injuries for the Cardinals and Packers?
Yeah, not a ton here. Biggest thing, right guard Will Hernandez out for the season with a knee injury. Offensive line has been shaky in and out all year. He's actually been playing really well for them, so this is a pretty significant loss. Wide receiver Zay Jones returns from suspension, so he's another wide receiver getting thrown into the mix there. And then Romeo Doubs does return from his team suspension there, where he essentially threw a hissy fit for not being part of the game plan. So, not a ton as far as the injury front, really the offensive lineman and a couple wide receivers potentially getting mixed back into the fold. How much of an impact those guys will have is kind of to be determined.
All right. Let's get over to let's go over to a AFC South matchup. On Sunday, we've got the Indianapolis Colts. They are going to be taking on the Tennessee Titans. Colts are a 1-point favorite in this game with a total of 43. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Colts and Titans?
Yeah, I think this is just like, what's the quarterback going to be? Is it going to be, Anthony Richardson and Will Levis? Is it going to be Joe Flacco and Mason Rudolph? Yeah. That's going to be kind of the questions. Will Levis, he's expected to practice. He didn't practice on Monday, but he's expected to practice this week. It says they're improving. They said he's going to be a starter when healthy. Is that kind of a gamesmanship? Like, is he never going to be truly healthy? I don't know. Clearly, this offense looked better with Mason Rudolph in it. But from the AC joint, AC sprain that they're saying that it looked like based on the mechanism of his injury, he should be able to be back off the bye. From a health perspective, typically with this injury, he should be good to go. Whether they decide to play him or not, that's kind of up to them. The big star defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons dealing with an elbow injury. Bye week came at a good time, but he is truly questionable for this week. So that's one you definitely want to watch for. He obviously has a huge impact. And the other side of the ball, Anthony Richardson and Jonathan Taylor, who sat out last week. Jonathan Taylor dealing with a bit of a high ankle sprain, even though they called it mild. Those are tough to come back from. So,
yeah.
Another one you have to watch the injury report, see if he's going to be trending towards playing. Even if he is, I expect him limited. Anthony Richardson, he was a little bit more kind of bumps and bruises. I do think I'm more optimistic that he plays this week, even though, worse for our Josh Downs and Alec Pierce ladders and things like that. But I do think there's a better chance AR-15 comes back.
Yeah, I think that if he does come back, I think the play on him is usually longest completion to go over, but his passing yards to go under. That's kind of been the theme for Anthony Richardson, or for him to throw a
nice
pick.
One. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alec Pierce is also his guy for whatever reason. I mean, I know
100%.
Flacco found Pierce late, but he wasn't really involved until the end of that game. But Alec Pierce is part of Anthony Richardson's arsenal. So
yeah, so definitely keep an eye out if we do see Anthony Richardson returning here for the Indianapolis Colts. We'll move it along here to the next game. Let's go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They are going to be visiting the New Orleans Saints. Saints catching 3.5 points in this game with a total of 41.5, and some big injury news here on the Saints side, Sebastian, but we'll be looking at least for Bucks and Saints.
Yeah, so Derek Carr, the big one last night. We gave out on our show early lines. We like the Bucks at plus money there on the money line. Obviously, that was pre-injury. Post-injury today, I tweeted out, hey, before they said he was going to miss multiple weeks, you don't return in 6 days and be 100% from oblique strain. So at the very best case, he's going to be limited. Now he's going to be missing multiple weeks. And this makes sense. Your obliques, they're a part of your abdominals. And essentially, rotation is their big thing. That's what they do. They help you rotate. So what do you have to do when you throw a football? You have to rotate your body. So, I mean, it not only is it hurt when you breathe, when you laugh, when you cough, things like that, but every time you throw, you're going to be feeling it. So looks like we're going to either get Jake Haener or the rookie Spencer Rattler, which I love going up against the Todd Bowles defense. That number has obviously been moving. I liked it when it was under 3. Now it's at 3.5. Still probably like it, but might want to wait until that stabilizes a little bit. And then on the Bucs side, they got Antoine Winfield, Kalijah Kancey, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan, and right tackle Luke Goedeke. All guys who are close to returning. Mm-hmm. I'd say that Trey Palmer definitely returns from the concussion. Luke Goedeke, he's been out for a long time with his concussion. That you worry there about some post-concussion syndrome. So, that's one to watch, but he should be back. McMillan coming off the hamstring, he's got a chance. Kancey coming off his calf, he's got a chance. And I do expect Antoine Winfield to be back. So I would say, worst case, they get 2 out of the 5 guys back. I think best case, there's a chance all of those guys are able to return. So definitely ones to watch. We haven't gotten real updates on them, but those are guys that were somewhat close, had a chance on last Thursday night. So I would say they have a pretty good chance coming into Sunday.
Going back to Derek Carr, how many weeks do you expect him to be out?
Yeah, now that they've said multiple weeks, I would say, but in that 2 to 4 range. 2 to 4 range is probably typical. There's really, really variable timelines. If it's super minor, it is a couple days. Like he could have played if it was a pretty minor strain, but he would have felt it. It would have been painful. There was a chance for re-injury. It sounds like it's a little more significant than just like a very minor strain, a little bit more moderate. So I'd say between that 2 to 4 weeks, nothing above 6, but nothing below 2.
Yeah, so they have obviously the game this week against the Bucks, and then they play on Thursday night against the Denver Broncos at home, and they have 10 days off before they play the Chargers in LA. So I don't think I would expect him back until that Chargers game. We'll see. That's 2 weeks there, but I think maybe more so either against the Panthers on November 3rd. I think that would probably be the target date for Derek Carr. Why not Taysom Hill?
Yeah, that's true. I know he's dealing with fractured ribs, so that gets a little different than bruised ribs. So he was out last week. I think there's a good chance he's out this week. When you talk about fracture, you got to wait at least until they're, until they start to heal, because you don't want to risk, and even especially in the ribs, getting close to the lungs there can be a little scary. So because he's got fractured ribs, there's a good chance he's also out as well. But that's true. I mean, if he was healthy, that's definitely a question. The one thing I would say here is, you mentioned it, man. I obviously like the Bucks. The number is going to get inflated pretty quick, like it already has. If you look, they already got next Thursday night, Denver Broncos Saints. Broncos are just sitting at -1. I know they're on the road, but that's a really good defense going up against either Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler. I think that's a good time to jump on Broncos -1 before most people are looking that far ahead. So if you're somebody who likes to jump on things early, which is why we put this show out, just an opportunity there.
Yeah, and again, if either one of those quarterbacks look bad for the Saints, that line is only going to start creeping up in favor of the Denver Broncos. Let's get over to the next game on the board here. We'll get over to the West Coast games. Let's go with the Pittsburgh Steelers. They are visiting Vegas to take on the Raiders. Pittsburgh currently laying 3 points in this game with a total of 36.5. Sebastian, what do we got for Steelers and Raiders?
Yeah, this one's pretty cut and dry here, at least for the Steelers. Tomlin does a pretty good idea if he doesn't keep you guessing. Running backs Cordell Patterson, Jalen Warren are going to be out, and so are outside linebackers Nate Herbig and Alex Highsmith. So two positions are getting very thin at. Obviously, you have Najee Harris in the backfield there. The one that's going to be a little bit more of, we've got some questions here, is Russell Wilson. He's expected to have his first full practice on Wednesday. He's going to be working with the second team, but I mean, look, let's be honest, Justin Fields, for as good as he's looked, when you really look at it, has he played well, or has the team just played well? The team had 3 turnovers and a blocked field goal, and you still lost the game at home. Yeah. You got to start asking questions about, hey, you brought in Russell Wilson to be the QB1. Is it time you get a look, give him a shot here? So I would say that leash is getting shorter and shorter for Fields. On the Raiders side of the ball, defensive tackle Christian Wilkins was ruled out with a foot injury. Not a lot of info there, so would need some more info as far as he's going to play. But Steelers, a little bit clearer picture. It's just, where are we going to see at quarterback going forward?
Yeah, and I know you mentioned the running back room situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I mean, even Najee, at least over the last 2 weeks, has not looked very good for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So maybe this is the week against the Raiders defense that he can excel. It's a possibility, but we'll see. Again, another. I think that I feel like Justin Fields gets to start this week, and then again, if it doesn't go well for him, I think we do see a quarterback change there. At least Russell Wilson taking over as QB1 as they had him slated before the season was going to start there. So we'll definitely keep our eyes out for that. Let's get over to the next game here. We'll go over to maybe the game of the week, the Detroit Lions. They are in Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Lions coming off a bye week, laying 3 points here in Dallas. Total is sitting at 52.5 in this game. Sebastian, what do we got for Lions and Cowboys?
Yeah, nice part about this game is, not a lot of injuries, right? Not a lot of new, at least. So Lions, like you mentioned, coming off by center Frank Ragnow and safety Brian Branch, who both missed the game against Seattle, are practicing. So there's a good chance they are able to return. They practice on Monday. So, obviously coming off the bye, they practice a little bit earlier than everybody else. Really good sign for their availability this week. Dallas side of the ball, obviously no DeMarcus Lawrence. I expect Micah Parsons to be out again. If he does play, very limited. I think big re-injury risk. I think they're smart enough to not have him play this week. Dallas rookie defensive end Marshawn Nealon, meniscus removal, meniscectomy. He's going to be probably put on IR, at least out 4 weeks. So that edge rusher position is just getting thinner and thinner for Dallas. They were able to handle it Monday night against the Steelers, or not Monday, Sunday night, Oof. They were able to handle it there, but that position is just getting thinner and thinner at defensive end. So some questions for the Dallas defense, and the Detroit Lions getting a bit healthier.
Yeah, I know for the Lions, like you mentioned, the big one was Frank Ragnow on their offensive line, but like you mentioned, should be back for this game against the Dallas Cowboys. Let's move it along here to the next game. We'll go over to the Sunday night football game. We've got the Cincinnati Bengals. They are headed to the Meadowlands to take on the New York Giants. Bengals currently laying 3.5 points in this game with a total of 49. Sebastian, what are we looking at for Bengals and your Giants?
Yeah. So I think for the Giants side, didn't pick up a ton of injuries Sunday, thankfully. Malik Neighbors, I would expect him to be back coming off the concussion. At this point,
Yep.
he's had the mini bye and, a full week. I would fully expect him to be back. Devin Singletary is one that I'm not so sure. He didn't practice a lot with that groin injury, high re-injury risk. Those are tough injuries for running backs. Tyrone Tracy looked really good. Whether Singletary is back all the way or not, I think Tyrone Tracy is one of the guys you should look for in the prop market in waiver wire. On the Cincinnati side of the ball, man, things just do not keep getting at bad positions. Things keep getting worse. Cornerback Dax Hill, starting cornerback, ACL out for the season. Offensive tackle Amarius Mims, who is coming in for Trent Brown, who he got ruled out for the season. Now Amarius Mims, the rookie, dealing with an ankle injury, was unable to return. One to watch for an already thin offensive line. Good news, Zach Moss, ankle injury expects to be minor, so he should be good to go. Obviously, him and Chase Brown splitting time in the backfield there.
Yeah, maybe there's no rush for Devin Singletary to come back because, like you mentioned, Tracy looked really good against the Seattle Seahawks last week, and now you're going up against like we talked about at the top of the show, a Cincinnati Bengals defense that is just absolutely struggling, and now with even more injuries to their secondary there, maybe this is another week where Tracy has a big game for the Giants against this Bengals defense. So I think that's definitely a prop that I would be looking out for sure against the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think for if Malik Neighbors does return, one prop that has cash for me in the games that he has played in the first 4 weeks, longest reception for Malik Neighbors has been a very profitable angle. So I think now going up against this team in the Bengals defense, like we've talked about, that has struggled. I think that might be worth a look as well in the prop market this week. But we'll keep an eye out for Malik Neighbors. But I think he should be returning here, especially this game being on Sunday Night Football. Before we get anything else?
No, I love that. I love that angle. No, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's really been that downfield threat. I mean, we've seen, and people that have been obviously watching Malik Neighbors, he's just a freak of an athlete. So it's I'll be curious to see what that number does come out for Malik Neighbors. But again, yeah, they've been a very profitable angle. All right, before we get over to the Monday Night Football game, let me tell everyone about our friends over at BetUS. We're brought to you by BetUS. Bet with the best in the business. BetUS. BetUS has been around for more than 30 years. Easily deposit using cryptocurrency and get lightning fast payouts. US players are always welcome. Sign up and deposit $100, and you have a chance to win a 1960 Ford Mustang. Use our link to sign up and get a 125% deposit bonus on your first 3 deposits. Go to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/betus. Make sure you use that promo code SGPN so they know that we sent you. BetUS, America's favorite sports book. And we're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered back sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money, lines, spreads, totals, and props. Build your own model, copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or press build a model for me, and Rhythm gives you a predictions for every game and player prop, and also has a merit of stats, research, and trend analysis to give you even more betting insights. Claim your 7-day free trial today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/RITHMM. All right, Sebastian, let's get over to Monday Night Football here between the Buffalo Bills. They are in Meadowlands as well to take on the New York Giants. New York Jets. Bills currently sitting as a 2-point favorite with a total of 41. Some news, at least not injury related for the Jets. We could touch on that, but Bills, Jets, what do you got for injuries in this game here?
Yeah, I think you were going to mention, obviously, Robert Saleh got canned this morning, unexpectedly there. So how does that affect the team? We'll see. Defensive coordinators taking him for the interim. Aaron Rodgers, low ankle sprain, should be good. Man, does he look old though? Oh my
Whew,
goodness,
it was
crawling
bad.
around back there. So
Yeah.
usually low ankle sprain, I'm not concerned, but he just looks so brittle back there. Like, his mobility was already limited. So here we go. So that's not good. Sauce Gardner though left the game for a couple series with a head injury, got evaluated for concussion, but was able to come back to the game. So that tells me he's good to go. Other cornerback Michael Carter picked up a hamstring injury, so those are tough. Do not expect him to be out there this week. And then Josh Allen also picked up a mild low ankle
Yeah.
sprain. For him, it's a little bit less concerning, just given the age and given how he pops back, and clearly pops back because it looks like he got knocked out and just smelling salted his way back into the game. So probably not the correct concussion protocol the NFL followed there, but do expect Josh Allen to be good to go. We'll see if Khalil Shakir, coming off his ankle injury, can practice and play this week, because he makes a big difference in that passing game.
Yeah, and I think last week was an example of it where they didn't have Khalil Shakir, and what Josh Allen was like, what, 9 of 30, 9 of 31 last week against the
Pretty
Texans. So,
terrible. Yeah,
I mean, going up against this defense, yeah, for the Jets, I think they're gonna need him out there for sure.
absolutely.
In this AFC East clash here, so it's gonna be a big game here on Monday Night Football. Sebastian, a couple of teams that are on buys going into Week 6 here. We have the Kansas City Chiefs, who played on Monday Night Football, who got the victory against the Saints there. And then we also have let me see here. Let me get back to the schedule. So Chiefs. What else do we got? Week 6.
We got Chiefs, Vikings, Rams, and Dolphins.
Yeah, there you go. Chiefs, Rams, Dolphins, and Vikings. Any injuries that we should be looking out for? Maybe guys coming back. I know this is a bye week for the Miami Dolphins. We talked a lot about Tua. Haven't really seen much of an update, unless you've seen one. But we can start with the Chiefs and then kind of work our way down the list if you want.
Yeah, so here's what I'll do. I'll give a little bit of info, and I'll kind of tease it into, hey, definitely check out the DGen Docs on Thursday, and we'll get more into it, just so we don't run too long here. But look, Rashi Rice, LCL, hamstring repair, out for the season. Kind of what all that means and things. Again, I will get into a little bit more on Thursday, but he's out for the season, folks. Do not, don't have the optimism that he's going to return, despite what anybody tells you. He's done for the season, including the postseason. Aaron Jones, MRI in the hip, week to week. Bye week came at a good time. However, when they're week to week, it's one to watch, because that doesn't mean that he's necessarily definitely coming back. Similar with Cooper Kupp, coming off the high ankle sprain. He's got a chance to return in week 7. However, got to look at the practice there. I think he's got a decent shot to return. I would say
so.
Probably about 60-40, maybe even 70-30. Tua, like you mentioned, he's going to consult with the specialist. He's still on IR. We got to see if he's going to be able to practice. Again, most people coming back from concussions, I would say from a health perspective, he should be able to, but his circumstance is a little bit special. So we'll see. Yeah. Devon A-Chain also dealing with a concussion, have a bit of a lucky bye week there, because most people are missing at least 1 week and returning the next week. So he's got a good shot to be back.
Yeah, I mean, I think especially for the Rams and the Dolphins, Cooper Kupp, I think this is I feel like he would be back, because they came out early last week and I had ruled him out, knowing that they had the bye week. So it gives them another extra week to get ready. And then for the Dolphins, we'll keep an eyes and ears open if we do hear more about Tua. But with Devon A-Chain suffering that concussion, gives them about 2 weeks here to get ready for the game in week 8 when they do come. Week 7. Just trying to see who they do play. If Devon A-Chain and or even Tua do return for the Dolphins, they have a game against the Indianapolis Colts. So we'll see if he's able to return in Devon A-Chain or even Tua. All right, that is going to wrap it up here for this edition of the NFL Week 6 injury news and updates. And guys, that we are looking at the player prop market for some of the injuries of guys being out. Sebastian, anything else you want to mention, my man? Anything you want to plug before we go our separate ways?
No, man, definitely. Hey, check out the Propcast. They're doing great things over there. Check out that pregame show on Sundays, and their show, I believe, what y'all record Wednesday or Thursdays come out.
Yeah, we do Wednesdays for Thursday Night Football, and then we do Friday for the Sunday game. So that's the schedule for the Propcast for the player props.
Yeah, the other thing I'll mention is, Munaf mentioned it, but hey, this is a good opportunity that we're talking about some guys, some opportunities to target. Like he said, write them down. And as soon as that comes out, if you agree, if it's something that you're trying to back, get on it early. Because unless there's some crazy injury stuff, that number's only going to go down. So that's what we consistently see. For example, Kareem Hunt, I gave him out on Thursday, 60 plus yards. It was almost 4-1 at that point. By the time Monday night rolled around, that number dropped down, more 2-1, something like that. So your value is just kind of going down. So if you have a take that you really like, get on it early. DGen Docs live Monday and Thursdays, 7:15 Eastern time. We'll be getting way more into the injury space a little bit there, but always love to get on it early. So we appreciate you. Have a good week.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Sebastian. Of course, we'll be back next week, of course, for NFL Week 7 injuries. And again, like Sebastian mentioned, you guys make sure to check out the DGen Docs over there to get into a great analysis over on injuries, giving you fantasy guys to pick up and also player props as well. So, yeah, keeping your eyes and ears out, and make sure you guys subscribe to the DGen Docs there as well. All right, we'll be back next week for NFL Week 7. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off, and always remember to let it ride.